Oh my God, look at this crowd. Welcome to my bar mitzvah, everybody. Oh my God, thank you. We packed the house, look at this. I mean, I hear they were scalping tickets out front. Wow, look out Taylor Swift. We're doing this in MSG next year. Thank you all so much for being here. Give it up for Congressmember Adriano Espaillat. Fighting and delivering for Uptown and the Bronx. Espaillat que vamos. Give it up for Mino Laura, our spectacular MC. Sabe que te quiero mucho, Mino. Thank you, President Ann Kirshner, for welcoming us here into the fabulous Hunter College. We love it. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Grazie, controllatore. Tomas Di Napoli. That's all I got, man. That's all I got. Va bene, va bene. We got not one, but two comptrollers here. Give it up for my friend, City Comptroller Brad Lander. Two comptrollers. Everybody's leaving with a check. Give it up for the Public Advocate of New York and my former seatmate in the New York City Council, Jamani Williams. I have stories. I will not be sharing them right now. Now, we have a very close-knit tribe of borough presidents, and we talk every day. We bother each other day and night, and I want to give a huge shout-out to my besties, Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, Queens Borough President Donovan Richards. I don't know how you make a Q. You got to work on that. Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. I want to shout out my partner in government, who I am so proud of every day when I see him out there fighting, our District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. I mean, he is just absolutely amazing. Excuse me one second. We got a lot of city council members here, so many that I got to look at the list, all right? This is a good problem to have. But will you please give it up for Council Members Abreu, Council Member Keith Powers, Council Member Carmen de la Rosa, Council Member and my predecessor, Gail Brewer, Council Member Eric Botcher. We got some great members of the Assembly here. Assembly Member Grace Lee, Alex Boris, Assembly Member Rosenthal, Chair of the Housing Committee, Assembly Member De Los Santos, Assembly Member Tony Simone. And will you please give it up for my wonderful family, Ivelisse, Alejandro, Daniel. I love them. I couldn't do what I do without their support. They are amazing. Bienvenidos a todos y a todas. Si alguno de ustedes me están entendiendo ahora, déjame saber con un poco de bulla. Deja ver. Ahora sí. Bienvenidos a nuestro discurso del estado del condado de Manhattan, el mejor condado del mundo, ya ustedes saben. Alguna gente del Bronx no le gustó eso, pero es así. All right, the teleprompter doesn't know Spanish, so we gotta move it up here a little bit. It's all good. He really doesn't know the next one. Baruchim habayim lekulam v'kulam. התכנסנו ביחד היום כדי לחגוג את רוב מנהטן, לציין את התקדמות והאתגרים שלנו ולהסתכל יחדיו לעבר עתידנו המזהיר. All right. Rest of the speech is going to be in Greek. What do you say? Welcome everybody to Hunter College, crown jewel of higher ed in New York City, founding pillar of our precious CUNY system. Welcome to the bustling and vibrant neighborhood of Lenox Hill. That's where you are right now. Welcome to the one and only Upper East Side, which, according to a recent report in the New York Times, has the hottest restaurant scene in New York City. Don't blame me, didn't write the article, I'm just reporting it out. Welcome to the borough of Manhattan, the global epicenter of art, innovation, social activism, where the energy and diversity are like nowhere else in the world. Yes, Manhattan has taken some blows in recent years. The 9/11 terror attack, Superstorm Sandy, the COVID pandemic, and each time The naysayers counted us out. Remember this headline from August 2020? Yeah, I've got it burned right up here. Well, I have some breaking news. Manhattan is not dead. We are alive and kicking and vibrant. And there are so many tourists in Times Square these days that I highly advise you avoid it at all costs. Just kidding. In my office, we are putting our hearts and souls into fighting for this borough every single day. And I want you to know that Manhattan is served by an outstanding team, including Deputy Borough Presidents Aya Keefe and Keisha Sutton-James, two tremendous leaders in their own right. I have to shout out my director of events who killed it again today, Mariel de la Cruz. She is awesome. Actually, I want to ask my whole team to please stand. I'm just so grateful for all of you. You inspire me every day. A big applause for the Manhattan Borough President's team. You guys are awesome. Our team has made our Northern Manhattan office a hub of activity, assisting thousands of Manhattanites with everything from affordable housing applications to getting heat turned back on by negligent landlords. We run a small business loan fund that has now given out $2 million in zero-interest loans, overwhelmingly to MWBEs. We've held myriad cultural events throughout the year, honoring the outstanding leaders and diverse communities of this borough. I feel sorry for you if you missed our Black History Month event last week. Right, Alvin Bragg? When we honored Manhattan legends of hip-hop. Yes, Bronx, I said Manhattan legends of hip-hop. Dougie Fresh was there. He's from Manhattan. And make sure to join us in a few weeks when we have our annual Women's History Month event. Come on by, it's gonna be great. Our Northern Manhattan office is one of the only places in the city where you can pick up N95 masks. We're offering free tax preparation service assistance every Friday and much more. So come on by anytime to 431 West 125th Street. Our team could not do all we do without the incredible Manhattan Volunteer Corps, 500 Manhattanites of all ages who've worked with our team to give out COVID test kits, to clean up parks, to get food to needy families. Over 10,000 meals delivered in the past year, and we have much more to do. So join our Manhattan Volunteer Corps. You can go to the link right there and sign up. Many of you have stepped up not just to volunteer, but to lead for your neighborhood and your borough in an incredibly impactful way by applying to join your local community board. We had over 900 Manhattanites apply last year. Thank you so much. And big news, we extended the deadline this year, so you have till next Friday to get your application in. Please apply to lead for our borough. And actually, would all current and past community board members please stand up so we can acknowledge you? I think you're out there. Many of you have also stepped up to lead for our young people by volunteering for our schools as community education council members, on the PEP as PA presidents and members. And I am so grateful for everything you're doing to fight for our kids. Of course, there are no great schools without our wonderful teachers. We love teachers. Please give a big round of applause for our teachers. In fact, shout out to all the labor here today. Union workers keep this city running. You keep us safe. You keep us healthy. You keep us strong. You are building our future. And I am proud to stand with labor today and every day. I'm also grateful to another group of leaders who's here, our NYCHA Tenants Association presidents and TA board members. Been honored to work with all of you. Our city owes you and your residents a solution to the decades of neglect and underinvestment in public housing. And I will not stop until you have the decent public housing you deserve. All of us in this room, whether elected officials, community activists, regular New Yorkers, we have an obligation to celebrate the progress of our borough and city, and also to call out the challenges that we continue to face. And I agree with all those Manhattanites you heard in that very cool video a few minutes ago. Give it up again for Vic, Teddy, Marielle, and Wilma. They're here, all of them. I see Wilma in the back. Like these four leaders said, as New Yorkers, we don't expect life here to be easy, but man, some things shouldn't be so hard. It shouldn't be so hard to get to work on time. It shouldn't be so hard to afford childcare. It shouldn't be so hard to get your kid into a good school. It shouldn't be so hard to find a public bathroom. And it definitely shouldn't be so damn hard to find an apartment you can afford. I mean, come on. History has shown that when New Yorkers have the will, when we come together, there's nothing we can't do. And we can tackle the challenges of the current moment as well, every one of them. Today, I want to talk to you about what we can do together to make life for the people of this borough a little easier. We'll talk about everything from subways to street trees, and you better believe it, housing. And if we are going to come together to take on these challenges, and we must, then we need to start by standing up to the rising levels of hatred that have been seen throughout our city, with hate crimes steadily increasing year to year since 2016. Hatred against Asian American New Yorkers, who were viciously targeted in the pandemic. And in this year of the dragon, and every year, we support our AAPI communities and strongly reject anti-Asian hate. Hatred against our LGBTQ plus New Yorkers, including our trans siblings, who are under relentless political attack nationally, too often spilling over to violent consequences, like the vile murder of O'Shea Sibley in Brooklyn last year. To our beloved LGBTQ community, we say we love you exactly as you are. Hatred against Black New Yorkers and the grinding long-term effects of racism, which directly impacts your physical and mental health, manifesting in the unacceptably high gap between Black and white maternal mortality in New York City, which we must do more to address. And shout out to mi hermano, Antonio Reynoso, who's been leading as Brooklyn Borough President on that issue from day one. To our Muslim neighbors, who, in a deeply disturbing echo of the post-9/11 era, have in recent months been subjected to rising Islamophobia, with, among other things, repeated incidents of the disgusting act of ripping a woman's hijab off on the street or in the subway. And it pains us that Sikh New Yorkers have been targeted as well. To our Muslim and Sikh neighbors, you are a treasured and vital part of the city, and we reject this hatred against you. To my fellow Jewish New Yorkers, we make up only 13% of this city's population, but more than 48% of hate crimes here in 2023 were anti-Semitic. To young Jewish people who hide their Stars of David pendants at school. To those who now feel it's safer to wear a baseball cap over their yarmulke in public. I say our city cannot and will not accept this. We will fight back against the alarming rise of anti-Semitism. נתקבל ביחד, נעבור את זה ביחד. אני מבטיח. A los quisqueyanos aquí, a los boricuas, a todos mis hermanas y hermanos hispanos que tanto han enriquecido esta ciudad, lamento mucho el aumento de la xenofobia en estos años. That's why, was that a Puerto Rican or Dominican accent? Get back to me, Mina. That's why I am proud to be working with DA Alvin Bragg, Assemblymember Grace Lee, and Senator Brad Hoylman Siegel to pass state legislation ensuring that every one of these incidents is properly charged and prosecuted as a hate crime. And I want to say something directly to the migrants. Sé que ustedes vinieron acá a progresar y sé que van a hacer algo muy positivo para Nueva York. Ya lo son. Ya lo son. Et j'inclus également nos francophones d'Afrique. And while we continue to plead for more migrant assistance from the federal government, including the critical issuance of work permits, I am They want to work. Talk to any migrant family, the first thing they'll tell you is, I need to work, I want to work. We need the federal government to make that possible. In the meantime, I am so proud of New Yorkers who have truly welcomed the migrants with compassion since this crisis began a year and a half ago. I'm so proud of you. We also need to show compassion for a group which is perhaps the most vulnerable in the city. New Yorkers struggling with severe mental illness. Too often, people in this kind of crisis cycle in and out of the emergency room, never getting access to the long-term care that they need, ending up landing unsheltered on the streets. This is a human tragedy that we see playing out around us, in stairwells, in parks, on our subways. We have to do more to get these fellow New Yorkers into the treatment they need and deserve. It simply shouldn't be so hard to help someone with serious mental illness get access to a hospital bed. But it is. Because over the past decade and a half, we have lost over 400 inpatient psychiatric beds just in the borough of Manhattan. Even Bellevue, flagship of psychiatric care in New York City, has only 19 beds in its extended care unit. That's it. My office is leading the charge on this issue, and in December, we issued a report on how we can fix our broken mental health system. We called for 600 new inpatient psychiatric care beds at H&H and at the State Psychiatric Hospital on Randall's Island. We called for investments in addressing staffing shortages in behavioral health, expansion of proven and effective community-based mental health programs, and of course, an increased pace of building supportive housing. The crisis of severe mental illness in New York City is not hopeless, but we need to double down on investing in the programs that we know work. We also need to double down on investment in our transit system. Thankfully, subway ridership continues to increase. We're now routinely topping 4 million riders per day. That's a big deal. But too often, New Yorkers on the subway experience unreliable service and extensive delays, even during the morning commute. It really shouldn't be so hard to get to work on time. The whole subway system desperately needs modernization, upgrades, and expansion. It is, after all, a system that still runs, in part, on vintage 1940s switches. We need to catch up to the rest of the world and install platform screen doors, which prevent passengers from falling or being pushed, and prevent trespassing onto the tracks. I've been pushing hard for platform doors since I took office 2 years ago, and I'm pleased the MTA is now working on a pilot program to install them in 3 stations, including at the Times Square 7 train and at the 3rd Avenue station on the L train. We have an even bigger fight on our hands to make the entire subway system fully accessible. Today, a shameful 70% of subway stations in New York City are still inaccessible to someone using a wheelchair. We need to push much harder to install elevators in every station that needs one. We don't just need to improve our subway system. We need to expand it. And in Manhattan, as the Congressmember said, there is no greater priority than completing the next phase of the 2nd Avenue subway up to 125th Street. And then, listen to this, let's keep the boring machine going and bring the line all the way across 125th to Broadway. What do you say about that? Congressmember, I guess we need another $6 billion. Sorry about that. We want all of these things. Modern signals, more elevators, new stations, new subway cars, which is why we need an added source of funding for our subway system. Now, I know congestion pricing is controversial. You may have been briefed on that on the way in. And we absolutely need to sort out the details to make sure they work for Manhattanites. But the program will provide $1 billion per year for desperately needed transit upgrades. Improvements that will make the system more reliable, safer, and more accessible for everyone. We need to do better for New Yorkers on the rails and also do better for New Yorkers on the sidewalks. It simply shouldn't be so hard to cross the street safely. In 2023, tragically, 101 pedestrians were killed in New York City. Thankfully, that death toll, while still far too high, has come down in recent years. But unfortunately, the number of cyclists killed last year at a painfully high 30 is the highest since 1999. That's why we need stronger enforcement of everything that moves on our streets, whether cars, trucks, e-bikes, or mopeds. But for enforcement to work, we urgently need to crack down on the rapidly spreading epidemic of fake, obstructed, defaced, and simply missing vehicle license plates. We also need to physically improve our streets to make them safer for everybody, pedestrians, cyclists, seniors, people who use wheelchairs. We need wider sidewalks in crowded areas, pedestrian islands, and traffic calming measures across the borough. Manhattan has now secured over $40 million for upgrades like this in communities across the borough through the state DRI program. Shout out to my wonderful predecessor, Gail Brewer, for kicking it off with a large award in Chinatown, Chinatown DRI, and I'm thrilled that over the past 2 years, we secured additional DRI awards. $10 million for East Harlem, $5 million for the Garment District, $5 million for Hudson Square, to make public realm improvements in each of these communities. It's hard to think of any stretch of roadway throughout New York City that needs an update more than Route 9A, AKA the West Side Highway. And I am thrilled that this week, following our 2-year advocacy campaign, the state has announced they're beginning to study potential enhancements of 9A to better serve everyone, including pedestrians and cyclists. We have a chance to do something spectacular on the east side as well, in lower Manhattan, around the seaport, if we tear down the FDR south of the Brooklyn Bridge. Yes, you heard that right. The extension Robert Moses built south of the bridge in the 1950s is the least heavily used part of the FDR. And it has created a noisy, uglier barrier between the people of lower Manhattan and their waterfront. It's also nearing the end of its useful life. So now is the time to tear down the FDR south of the Brooklyn Bridge. In its place, let's build a grand, green, multi-use boulevard. Doesn't that look beautiful? Much better, much better. Maybe we can build a public bathroom there when we do that project. Lord knows we need more of those all over the city. It's okay to admit it, guys. We've all been caught out there. It just shouldn't be so hard to find a bathroom when you need one. The numbers don't lie. We have just one public bathroom in New York City for every 6,000 residents. Imagine that line. Behind every other major city in America. We are changing that in partnership with the great Teddy Siegel, the inspiring influencer behind the viral Got to Go TikTok account. If you're not following her, you definitely should. I am thrilled that we passed legislation together with Councilmember Rita Joseph that requires the city, you can applaud for Councilmember Rita Joseph, that will require the city to find new locations for bathrooms across the 5 boroughs. And we aren't done yet. Last week, we introduced a bill that would immediately open public access to many more bathrooms in city-owned buildings across the 5 boroughs. Now, the single item that got the biggest applause in all the speeches previous to this, do you remember what that was? That would be scaffolding. It may be the only issue that exceeds public bathrooms and the passion it inspires in the public. I have literally met people who are single-issue voters on scaffolding. And yes, I know what the word literally means. There are nearly 4,000 sidewalk sheds up on the streets of Manhattan right now. This hurts local businesses. It is a public safety problem, and it's just plain ugly. Most egregiously of all, hundreds of these sheds have been up for more than 5 years, some even longer than 10 years. We want facade repair work done fast. We want sheds to be less ugly when they do go up. And we want to reform Local Law 11 so that there's more flexibility in the inspection schedule based on the actual level of risk. Wow. The first time Local Law 11 has ever gotten an applause. We made history. I am thrilled that we have great partners in the council fighting for legislation on all this. Thank you, council members Keith Powers, Sean Abreu, and Eric Botcher. They are awesome. Our goal is simple: keep pedestrians safe and ensure our sidewalks are not blighted by sheds a day longer than they have to be. We want to be able to see our beautiful buildings again, right? Yes, we do. No beautiful street is complete without trees. Yes. Trees don't just clean our air. They absorb carbon dioxide, catch storm runoff, and cool neighborhoods on hot days. But there is enormous inequality in where street trees are planted. Low-income communities of color, like East Harlem, have far fewer trees per block than wealthier parts of the city. That's why all 5 borough presidents, all 5, even Vito Fossella, I think he's stuck on the ferry or he would have been here. All 5 borough presidents came together to call for the planting of 1 million more trees across New York City. On streets, in parks, in schoolyards, NYCHA campuses, on rooftops. This will make it possible for us to achieve the critical goal of 30% green canopy cover for our city. But our street trees and our city's green spaces can only thrive thanks to an army of parks workers who maintain them. This is a park system, after all, that has hundreds of millions of visitors each year. So shout out to our parks workers. Local 1505. Fighting cuts to this vital workforce will be one of my top priorities in this year's budget fight. You know what else is vital to the life of the city? The arts. And it is a challenging time for that sector right now. The person who yelled, yes, that was me, no daughter, of course. But there's good news. We have transformative cultural projects being built around our borough that I want to tell you about, and I've been proud to help fund every one of these. A new home on 125th Street for the iconic National Black Theater. It's going to be amazing. With, by the way, housing on top. You know I love that. A brand new home on Central Park West and 96th Street for the amazing Children's Museum of Manhattan. We love CMOM. A brand new center for dance at the Joyce Theater coming soon to the East Village. An even new museum down on the Bowery with a new wing designed by none other than Rem Koolhaas. A new state-of-the-art home for the People's Theater Project uptown on 206th Street, where diverse stories will be told like never before. And also coming soon to Inwood, a long overdue Dominican Cultural Center. Ya es tiempo, coño. That was definitely Dominican. Antonio tried to compete with all that. We got you. I know Brooklyn is louder than Manhattan, but that's a good lineup. All told, I'm proud to have allocated over $20 million to cultural organizations in the borough, and we aren't done yet. Now, the arts shouldn't just be in big institutions. They need to be in our schools, too. Arts education has a proven positive effect on the creativity and well-being of students at all grade levels, whether through dance, music, theater, or visual arts. Investing in the whole child results in good things across the board, including academic success. That's why I believe we need more social workers and substance abuse counselors in every school. And we need to ensure a full-time school nurse in every school building every day. We also need to prepare our kids for the technological revolution ahead. They will be entering, is that the Apple Pro? I don't know. They will be entering a job market radically redefined by advances in AI, where the people who are comfortable using these new tools will be the ones who get ahead in virtually every field. Yet today, less than 1/3 of DOE graduates have had any computer science education in high school at all. And almost none have had training on topics like machine learning, which are going to be critical to understanding the world that our young people are heading into. A century ago, after Sputnik, our nation pivoted and taught every kid chemistry. Today, you can find a chemistry lab in almost every school. Now it's time to pivot again. We need to teach every kid media literacy so they understand how to spot bias, inaccuracies, and deep fakes in what AI is outputting. Today, instead of teaching kids the limitations and capabilities of new AI tools, 2/3 of public schools in New York City have actually blocked access to ChatGPT on their devices and networks. That means that only kids who own their own smartphone or have a computer at home can learn about these powerful new tools. How is that fair? It's not. I'm not just looking at schools, though. I'm looking at every city agency. Every part of city government needs to deal with the rapid advances in AI that are already here. That's why, last September, my office released a report laying out what our city needs to do to capitalize on the opportunities and mitigate the threats of this technology. And I'm leading by, we got one applause for AI in the back. I love you. I love you. Let's meet up afterwards. This week, the Manhattan Borough President's office has become the first agency in New York City government to release a comprehensive policy on employee use of AI so that we empower workers when possible and avoid the threats to privacy, accuracy, copyright, and more. That's your cue to applaud again. All right. But if we are truly concerned about our future and the future of this borough and city, about the future we want for our children here, then we must talk about, say it with me now, housing. We are in the midst of the worst affordability crisis in the history of New York City. The average rent in Manhattan for market rate apartments as of last month is $5,044 per month. So yes, Congressman, the rent is too damn high. Specifically for 2 bedrooms, it's $6,051 per month. For 3-bedroom apartments, it is an astounding $9,525 per month. Those are the averages. Raise your hand if you can afford those rents. I didn't see one hand. It shouldn't be so damn hard to find an apartment you can afford in New York City. We are staring at a future where the people in this room cannot afford to live in our beloved Manhattan. For low-income families, this is devastating. It is directly contributing to our homelessness crisis. There are families in homeless shelters today because of these astronomical rents. And it's not just low-income families. Bus drivers, nurses, teachers are getting pushed out of Manhattan too. And for young people who have grown up in our amazing borough, your kids, my kids, where are they going to live when they need to move out from their family's home? We will lose the next generation of Manhattanites unless we address this housing affordability crisis. We may even force people to move to Jersey, God forbid. I mean, no, can't happen. There is simply no getting around it. We must build more housing for the people of New York City. But the rate of housing production plummeted here in 2023. Manhattan is now building less than Durham, North Carolina. Not less per capita, less housing, period. Meanwhile, Jersey City, freaking Jersey City, is permitting housing at double the rate of New York City. I mean, come on, guys. Jersey's coming in for a rough ride in this speech. I'm sorry about that. I love Jersey. I love you guys. Because we are building so little, when market rate apartments do open up, there are bidding wars, literally. And low-income and working-class people are definitely not winning those bidding wars. The landlords, however, are making out like bandits. And what about the affordable housing that we are creating? This month, a wonderful building with deeply affordable rents is opening in Inwood. It's called the Eliza. Just $585 for a 2-bedroom. Perhaps you saw this building go viral on TikTok. It's a good-looking guy on a nice hard hat. But there's bad news. There were 80,000 applications for the 174 apartments in this building. The need is just desperate. None of what we're doing is enough. Housing scarcity is not working for New Yorkers. We need housing abundance. Now, some say that there's no more room to build housing in Manhattan. They are wrong. Last year, we scoured every block of this borough and put out a plan identifying no fewer than 171 sites where 70,000 units can be built. 70,000 units in empty lots, surface parking lots, vacant buildings, underutilized city-owned properties. We know getting each of these built is going to be a fight, but we are already winning those fights around the borough with projects that are now moving ahead. Projects like 5 World Trade Center, where a new building will rise soon, not with offices, but with 1,200 apartments, including no fewer than 400 units, affordable units, for a neighborhood that has seen almost no new affordable housing in decades. Shout out to State Senator Brian Cavanaugh and Assemblymember Grace Lee for fighting very, very hard for that. At 388 Hudson Street, where soon an RFP will be released for a project that will be 100% affordable, a true rarity in the West Village. I know Councilmember Bottcher is fighting hard for that. On East 94th Street, an area currently zoned for manufacturing because it used to be a brewery district, true story. Well, the breweries closed decades ago, and now at last we're going to rezone it for housing. And by the way, my office turned around that recommendation in record time, just 5 days. In East Harlem, on 106th Street, where 32 supportive housing units are being built, it's an incredible project, an LGBTQ affirming building for formerly homeless young people aged 16 to 24. It's going to be awesome. These are just some of the 17 sites in our Housing Manhattanites plan that are already moving forward, and there are many more to come. But even this is not enough. To truly meet our housing needs, we need further action from our partners in state government. Albany controls New York City's property tax code. They make our rent laws, and incredibly, they even limit how large our apartment buildings can be. Thankfully, we have some amazing fighters for housing in the state legislature, many of whom are here with us today. Thank you to Housing Chair Rosenthal. Shout out to your local Assembly member, Alex Boras, who's fighting so hard for housing. We need to push hard, shoulder to shoulder with our allies in Albany for a package of pro-housing, pro-tenant policies now. That's why I announced my state housing agenda 3 weeks ago. In our agenda, we made clear that we need a state program to convert vacant midtown office buildings into housing. How do you like that? Including affordable apartments. This next one won't get as big of an applause, but it's still important. We need the state to enact a replacement to 421A. Yay! To get construction of rental apartments going again in Manhattan with guarantees for deep affordability and stronger working standards. How about that? Did we rally there? We did. We need Albany to give New York City control back over how big we want our apartment buildings to be by lifting the FAR cap. We need rules in place so that market rate renters can't be evicted without good cause, so no one sees their rent double at the end of their lease. We need to build on the fabulous success of the right to counsel law that Borough President Vanessa Gibson and I passed for New York City tenants facing eviction. And we need to make it a statewide right for every tenant facing eviction in New York. We have a window to do all this before the state budget is due on April 1st, but we need to push hard. We also have high-stakes housing fights down at City Hall, where we have a chance to update our outdated zoning code to create more of the housing we desperately need. The Department of City Planning's City of Yes for Housing Affordability Plan is not radical. It would create a little bit more housing in every neighborhood with an emphasis on deeply affordable units. But in total, this zoning change would create an estimated 100,000 desperately needed homes across the 5 boroughs of the city, with tens of thousands in Manhattan alone. The fight to create more housing in this city, and especially more affordable housing, will not be easy. We're going to need all hands on deck to get this done. Community boards, local leaders, elected officials. I know how committed every one of you is to addressing our housing emergency, while also balancing the unique needs of every community, understanding the unique history of every neighborhood. We can work together to find that balance. For years, we just avoided this tough fight. We've only been too happy to allow landlords to charge higher and higher rents amidst our housing scarcity. It's time we seize control of the narrative so that we get the housing that New Yorkers need at rents they can afford. To the doubters who say this can't be done, I say, yes, we can. To the red state haters who say Manhattan is dead, I say, you have no idea what you're talking about. To the critics who say this will no longer be a place where people want to live, work, play, visit, and study, I say you are dead wrong. Manhattan's population is growing. Tourism is booming. Subway ridership is up. Of course people want to be in Manhattan because there's only one Apollo Theater. And there's only one United Palace. There's only one Loisaida. There's only, Wepa, dijeron Wepa. There's only one Barney Greengrass Grill, deli and grill. There's only one Museo del Barrio. There's only one Stonewall Inn. There's only one Mott Street in Chinatown. I could go all day. I could continue with this. You get the point. Yes, Manhattan definitely has a future. And it's up to us to choose what we want the future of our borough to be. Are we going to allow inequality to grow ever wider in Manhattan? Or will we ensure that our borough is a place of opportunity where no one is left behind? Are we going to ignore existential threats to our environment? Or will we fight for every block in Manhattan to be greener, healthier, and more resilient than ever? Will we accept this becoming a place where only millionaires can afford an apartment? Or will we create the housing that we need so Manhattanites of all backgrounds and all incomes can continue to call our borough home? Let's build that future together, Manhattan. Hagamos esta visión realidad por el bien de nuestros niños, por el bien de nuestro futuro. Thank you so much, Manhattan. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Where's the walk-off music?